Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Andy.
And we are joined once again by who is now just our only recurring guest,
Molly
Appleby. And we bring Molly in. This is the third time now, but the custom is sort of we bring her in when we have a new horror movie to discuss.
Yeah.
Because you two are, that's your thing, watching horror movies
We do
together.
go see a lot of horror movies together.
And not necessarily my thing, so I always think it will help the discussion a little bit if there's somebody else who's more into this genre. But we do have a new horror movie to talk about, and that's Bring Her Back.
Yeah.
Bring Her Back. I'm going to give a brief summary before we get into this.
Cannot wait for your summary of this movie.
Yeah, I don't know. So after the death of their father, step-siblings Andy and Piper are sent to live in a foster home with Laura, who lost her daughter, who, like Piper, was blind in a swimming accident. Andy, who is very protective of Piper, quickly becomes uneasy about Laura, particularly in regards to her other ward, Ollie, who spends his time locked in rooms, wandering around weirdly, and trying to bite things. It turns out that Laura is following some sort of cultish procedure in an attempt to bring the daughter of her soul back by putting her into the body of Piper.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time. Andy, Molly, was Bring Her Back good?
I think we should let our guests go first.
I say yes, it is good. I very much enjoyed it, but we'll get into that. Andy.
Yeah. Bring Her Back is good. This is why I love movies, because you watch like Fountain of Youth and Friendship in the last couple weeks, and it's like especially like Fountain of Youth, like this is just so stupid and forgettable. And here is a movie just bursting with creativity and originality and dread and people who like, we make horror movies, and this is a horror movie. And just you watch a couple bad movies and you just got to go back one time and your enthusiasm is just right back up.
Andy, I love your enthusiasm.
Thank you.
I can't disagree with anything you said. This movie is bursting with creativity. It's really well made. I did not like this movie.
No?
I did not. No, and you know what? This is why we have you two together on here. I was watching and go, this is exactly what I think of when I think of I don't really like horror movies.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like Molly's judging me really hard now.
I am.
To me, the story was so just wrapped up in the horror movie plot line. Mm-hmm. And what we mean by that is we talk about all the time, like you've got your main plot line, but then how can you like build the characters in the world around that? It was so caught up in this uncomfortableness of Laura taking these two orphans in and like how awkward she is. And of course, you know something's wrong. It's the horror movie trope. And the fact that this procedure she's doing, it was a little, unique and creative. I'll give you that. But ultimately, I was like, this is just making me uncomfortable for the sake of making me uncomfortable. And, the same way that we both feel that way about uncomfortable comedy, like in Friendship, I feel that way about uncomfortable horror. If you're just making me uncomfortable for the sake of being uncomfortable, I don't dig that. Uncomfortable
is definitely a good word to describe this movie. I mean, I don't disagree with that, but man, just the way these filmmakers, and I've already forgotten their names.
So it's Danny and Michael Philippou?
Sure. So here's the thing. In horror movies, we've seen a lot of cult, ritual, possession, which we really don't even really get much into possession. But I mean, like, we've seen that. And we've also seen the fill in the blanks. I steal this from the rewatchables. They call it like the blank by blank from hell. The babysitter from hell, the nanny from hell, the landlord from hell, the cop from hell. We've seen these movies. They were all over the place in the 80s and 90s, where it's like, hey, you're with someone who you're supposed to be able to trust, but they're actually crazy. So it's a couple different genres we've seen before. And we've also seen the overriding theme kind of in the movie is trauma and grief, right? We've seen all of that before. But I just think the way they construct this story, and I don't know, it just feels original. The characters felt real, like the brother or the stepbrother and sister felt like real people to me, which always is going to help. They didn't feel like they only exist in this movie to have horrible things happen to them. Now, even though horrible things do happen to them, they felt like real characters. And Sally Hawkins, like, is that her name? Sally Hawkins? Yeah. Yes, uncomfortable, weird, awkward, unbelievable performance, though. Like we talk about it, like just because we've talked about it before, just because it makes you feel uncomfortable or she's weird, doesn't mean there's not some skill that goes into that. And I'm all in on these guys, this directing team.
Yeah, so we may get into it a little more later. This is the directing team that also did, is it called Talk to Me?
Talk to Me.
Which is a movie I didn't see. I think both of you are familiar with it and liked it, so it made you more excited for this one. This was my first exposure to this directing team. And like I said, do I think these guys have a lot of talent? Yeah, I do. But just going back to like, is their thing my thing? I don't think it is. Molly, tell me more about what you liked about this movie.
Okay, I watch a lot of scary movies, obviously. Most of what I watch. So, like, when I watch a horror movie, usually it doesn't really stick with me. The last scary movie I saw before Bring Her Back was Clown in a Cornfield. Not a good movie. I mean, it was so bad that it was funny almost, but it was not a good movie. I didn't leave the theater feeling any different than when I came in. So I walk out of the movie, I'm just like, okay, I just saw a really bad movie. I like when I watch a scary movie and I actually it sticks with me for a little bit. And Bring Her Back was the first movie that's kind of stuck with me since seeing Longlegs last summer. And so I liked the uncomfortableness of it because it stuck with me, and like the dread and that was weird. Like that stuck with me. And so to me, that means it was a good horror movie because I left still feeling the emotions that were shown in the movie. So
can I tell you for me what the difference is, I think, for me in a movie like Longlegs versus this movie? And this is, again, just kind of going to the personal preference of the types of stories that I like. I think the reason that I could enjoy Longlegs, even though it's got a lot of the same things, it's weird, it's unsettling, is because we're following the story of a cop who's trying to solve the crimes and is competent. And even though they're going through this, navigating this unpleasant world, we're following somebody who you feel like, okay, like we're going to get through this together. Whereas in this movie, it's taking like people who are in a very like vulnerable position, these orphans, and it's a great setup because, and it's, I don't think unique to this movie. I think I've seen it before, but I couldn't name another movie where you take orphans who are put in this home, and the lady's got the great reputation. The one orphan, our main protagonist, has a bad reputation, so nobody's gonna believe anything that he says. And of course, he's even like in his own mind doubting some of his own sanity, and she's doing things to play that up. But the whole time you're just watching, you're like, oh man, like this is all awful, and I just want you to get away, but you just can't. You're just powerless in the situation. And so it just adds to that uncomfortableness. It probably is more effective if that's what you're going for. But again, that's what I think I can get out of Longlegs. Like, okay, I'm with somebody competent to like walk through this journey with, as opposed to somebody who's just like, everything just sucks for them throughout this story. Yeah,
I mean, it's a big swing to make a movie like this. Like you said, there's several times in that movie where I found myself, or in Bring Her Back, like agitated, where it's like, I just want someone to get a gun or something and shoot the Sally Hawkins character. Like, and they don't give you a lot of moments of satisfaction. I mean, there's one point, I mean, I don't know if we want to, how quick you want to do spoilers. You want to
let's hold off a second on spoilers.
So I guess I kind of gave it away. Like, there's just not a lot of like, oh, she's getting what she deserves. So yeah, it can be a frustrating experience. But I don't know. I'm kind of like you. Like, I can watch. I grew up, like we've talked about. I grew up on your Friday the 13th and your low stake horror movies, Clown in a Cornfield, even to an extent, where it's just like, you know what? We even joked about it. This isn't good, but it doesn't mean I didn't. It doesn't mean I regret my hour and a half because it's just such low stakes. But I'm like you. Sometimes I don't, it's like I love the uncomfortableness, but I do like being just immersed like in a true, like scary world. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
So before we get into spoiler territory, just in case people don't want to listen to that, I did want to talk a little bit about the cast because I thought the cast did a really good job.
Yeah.
You said it, Sally Hawkins. Maybe most well known for The Shape of Water, even though that's not, something I would.
It's overrated,
bragging about, but it did win Best Picture, and she was in it and really good. She does a really good job in this. Yeah. She does a great job of playing a lady who's a little unhinged, and but you can also see like when she has to have those moments of sweetness that they have to balance that. If she can't be unhinged 100% of the time,
right? Because then you're like, these kids need to just get out here instantly,
right? And everybody would pick up on it immediately, But so she does a good job with that. Billy Barrett, who plays Andy.
Yeah.
Is that his name? Andy? Is
Yeah,
that what I just
Andy.
said? I've got it written down here. I thought it was the first time I'd seen him. He actually had a small part in Kraven the Hunter. He plays Kraven's brother, the younger version of it, which completely, whatever. But so he was young Dimitri in Kraven the Hunter. But I was like, he did a really good job.
I thought he did excellent.
Excellent job. Although I kept thinking, like, who does he look like? And it finally hit me that he looks like his name Evan Peters, Quicksilver from the.
He definitely does.
From the
I definitely got that.
Yeah,
vibe
I was like,
too.
I just kept looking, going, I know him. And, oh, that's what it is. So Sora Wong, who plays the sister, who plays Piper, is actually like visually impaired.
Okay,
in real
I
life.
wondered.
I had to look that up. Like,
I watched a TikTok that said she is not fully blind. She has some sight.
Okay.
It's I think like they
just like her
you
character?
see shapes and kind of like
She said she wanted to do her best to like portray a fully blind person. So I think she has some sense of, she can see.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then finally, the last name that I wrote down was Jonah Wren Phillips, who plays the poor kid plays Ollie / Connor in the movie.
Smokes.
And I was like, that kid, like, I wonder what the casting call was like. We're like, we need a kid who A, can look a little creepy, and B, is just going to play like the wildest, weirdest part.
Dude, I can't wait to get
that you
into
can imagine as a kid. So I wanted to get through just saying what a good job I thought everybody did in this movie.
Also, the girl who played Piper, I'm pretty sure it's her acting debut.
I think you're right. As far as like,
I thought she did a really incredible job.
She did, and it's maybe not totally fair, but it does add a lot when you take a child who has some sort of handicap and you put them in these situations. It does make you as a viewer just like feel even more so like you got to make it.
Yeah.
But I thought they managed to do it in this movie without it feeling just like a gimmick.
Right.
Like, we're going to do this just so you'll feel so bad for her. And it gave that's why I think too that elevates this movie is the Andy and Piper.
Yeah.
The stuff and their dynamic together. And then this backstory you find out about them. I thought that was all really, really well done. Really good writing and really well portrayed by both actors.
Yeah. All right, so let's do it. Let's go ahead and give our spoiler warning right here. So if you want to watch this movie and not have anything ruined for you, stop watching right now. Go watch the movie. Come back to us. Do come back to us. Otherwise, we're going to keep going along. So now that we're into spoilers, I will agree with you. I think the best thing in the movie is their relationship.
Yeah.
And I think it is well played. The revelation that you get that the father was abusive to Andy, but not to Piper, like loved on Piper. And Andy did his best to protect Piper and not let her know that was a thing. And he reveals it finally in that phone voicemail that he leaves her at the end where he apologizes, like, sorry, I've been trying to protect you. And I didn't let you know, like, who you knew as dad, that wasn't who he was.
Right.
Like he was awful. And that stuff worked
really well.
I thought that was the best of the movie. I wish, honestly, could have enjoyed seeing more of it because I think it was all there. I don't think it was really like fleshed out a ton, if that makes sense. Because again, I think there was it was like it was there, but that wasn't what the filmmakers were concerned about. We like having that there, but it's just there to elevate what we're really focused on. I guess is what I'm trying to say. So take a movie like Hard Eyes. We brought this up so much this year.
Yeah.
But how
who would have thought we'd talk about Hard Eyes so much?
But it was just the surprise of all surprises that movie. When we talk about it would work as a rom-com and as a slasher movie, and they put them together. But they seem to care about both parts in equal, right? And this one, is not both parts in equal. It's not a family drama that then also is a horror movie. It is just horror movie.
Yeah.
And this was just a little pocket over here, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it would have been a better movie if they really emphasized that more necessarily. It probably would have felt off balance in this one. I think it would have been harder to blend the tones than in Hard Eyes. But yeah.
Yeah. See, I liked it. I thought it worked really well.
Yeah. Molly, tell me a little bit about Ollie, this crazy kid character just stampeding around in this movie. Not really stampeding, but I mean, just every scene he's in, unsettling.
Weird. You first are introduced to him. The two siblings get to Laura's house and they hear a cat meowing. They look out the window. There is some random boy that is in their pool holding the cat. So like automatically you're like,
The drained pool, which a drained pool
Yeah.
always looks creepy in a
It
horror
does.
movie.
It's
Yeah.
always effective.
so automatically you're just like, why is this boy just staring off into wherever holding a meowing cat? And then like I think she runs out and is like, Ollie, put the cat down. So like automatically you're just kind of like, he's weird. And she starts she introduces him and she says he's mute by choice. So again, you think, well, if he's mute by choice, you know, he's got to have some kind of maybe traumatic backstory or something. And then as the film progresses, he just gets weirder and weirder. You find out Laura keeps him locked in his room. So then you're like, oh man, like what really is wrong with this kid? So, and then obviously like he does a lot of weird stuff.
Does some unsettling things.
Holy cow.
Let's start
To
with
say the least.
To say the least. First of all, let me just say this. The all-time shocker of the year is that cat lived through this movie.
yeah.
I 1000% was like, oh, at some point in this movie, Andy's going to open a door or something. And there's just going to be a
Yeah.
dead cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and I think one of the chickens is shown like dead,
Dead, yeah.
but only one, I think.
Yeah,
and,
it's kinda shocking.
And Oscar, I thought for sure we were gonna get
This whole coop of chickens is...
yeah. But yeah, so you tell me more about your thoughts on Ollie.
So this goes back to, I think, a lot of the reasons why I like this movie. Because I love like I said, you're taking familiar horror tropes. The weird kid, like you said, it's like, obviously, this kid's got something on them. I love the filmmaker's approach. They don't try and hide that at all. Like, from the second Ollie's on screen, they make it clear, like, something is wrong. This isn't right. And in the first couple minutes of Andy and Piper getting in her house, she just directly lies. She lies to Piper. She's like, yeah, he has curly red hair. He doesn't. He has a buzzed head. Like, I just thought it was a cool approach. Like, a lot of times in horror movies, it would be like, oh, okay, there's this mute kid. And then it's, like, supposed to be some big reveal. Like, oh, he actually has something wrong with him. They don't try and hide that at all.
Yeah, and that was I'm going to give another bit of credit here. That was some good writing because Piper asks them, like, can you describe him for me? And Andy says, like, oh, what do you say? Like, he's really cute or something like that. And you could tell, like, obviously he's lying. He's a weird looking kid.
Yeah.
He's already got, like, you know, whatever, scars or cuts or, like,
He's got that blank stare.
Yeah, I mean, just you look at him, it's just haunting.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, oh, he's really cute.
Nice.
You know he's
Good-looking
lying.
dude.
So when he says, you know, what else? And she adds like the curly red hair, and she gives Andy a wink, like, yeah, see, you know, I can lie too. But you're like, but why would you?
Yeah.
Why that lie? You know that. And what if she feels his head? You know, like it just. So that's immediately one of those like off-putting things, but you almost get like the character thinking that they're pulling it off.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a good job. All right, let's just get to it, man. Let's talk about the scene where Andy thinks he's being helpful.
Oh my gosh,
And
this
he's
has got to be
trying
one
to
of
help
the
Ollie out, and so he's trying to cut up some cantaloupe. I
cantaloupe,
think.
I believe. This is going to be a big talking point of this movie.
First off, all-time bad move by Andy because he tries to just hand Ollie the piece of cantaloupe on the end of a giant butcher's knife. And
I'll tell you what, though, again, I think that's good horror filmmaking. Because you're like, is this kid going to grab the knife? Is this kid going to turn the knife on? And, you know, like, I think it's all intentional.
Yeah.
They're trying to build the tension and the suspense.
so I definitely thought this kid's cutting himself when he
Or I thought
when
he was
he,
going
when
to
he,
ram
when he
his
takes
face into the knife. Yeah.
and then Andy turns to look for a plate, and the camera.
What
looks at
actually
him
happens is
off
way
camera.
worse.
Yeah, so let me go back and Molly, you want to explain for our audience what happens?
Andy turns around to get a plate and he hears a little crunch and he turns back around to face Ollie and Ollie is chewing the knife. Blade up.
I would say that's the thing. Like if you say that, you'd imagine someone like, oh, he turned the knife sideways. No,
No.
like
Blade
he is,
up. He literally slices his mouth in half from like the middle of his lip.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. I think some of his teeth are like falling maybe. It was really gross.
It's a rough
You
watch.
hear the crunching. Yeah, some teeth come out.
Yeah.
It is very unpleasant.
It's very unpleasant.
I expected Andy to get stabbed. I thought Ollie was going to stab Andy, and I honestly think I would have rather seen Ollie stab Andy than Ollie eating the knife.
And just as uncomfortable, so the uncomfortableness of the chewing on the knife is bad enough. And then Andy's like trying to take it away, and he realizes like it's lodged in there. You know, like
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable all the way through, and he
It's
gets
just
it out, and then
horrifying.
blood's pouring, and he's like, "We gotta get you to the hospital," and tries to take Ollie out, and that's where we really have the first encounter of the white painted lines that apparently Ollie can't go past. That part's never really explored in the movie. I'm not saying it needs to be, but it's not. And as soon as he gets past the line, Ollie just starts screaming and freaking out, and everything is just so. There's so much anxiety at this point in this scene. And it builds that well. I'll give you that.
And kudos to them. Like, I've never seen anything like that in a movie. And I have seen thousands upon thousands of horror movies. And honestly, I hope I never see anything like it again, because it's bad.
Yeah. And then, you know, of course, Laura and Piper show back up from their girls' day, just time to see this, and Laura freaks out and sends them away. I don't even remember what happens.
She's screaming like, "Why did you bring him outside?"
Yeah.
Like, she's not even really concerned, which is another great insight into that character. She's not even concerned about the fact, you know, she's mad because he's bringing him past this circle.
Yeah, and then, you know, Andy's still like, "We got to take him to the hospital," and then she's got to be like, "No, we can fix this here." And you're like, this just keeps building to the weirdness. Lady, why are you know?
Oh yeah,
why are you so weird about this kid going out? Again, the thing that they do, setting it up as orphans who have to be there and no one's going to believe them, because of course you're like, well, why do you not just immediately get suspicious behavior, get out of there? Andy does kind of do that.
Yeah.
And, but you see what happens when he goes to tell people about it. It's like, yeah, who are we going to believe? You or this lady who was part of our
worked here
foster
for years
service
and,
for decades.
Yeah. I do think they do a really good job of constructing this movie. So, I mean, yes, you can nitpick and be like, he should have just thrown Piper in a car and they should have left. But they do a good job of making, like you said, you looked at it as a negative. I think they did it in a good way of like, it truly does feel like these poor kids are just trapped. Mm-hmm. No matter what you think of that they should do, it's not going to work. And like, they could be a frustrating experience, but it's more frustrating to me when they just write dumb characters in dumb scenarios, and you're like, just leave.
Yeah.
Like, just leave. And in this movie, I felt like they at least had ways to counter that, where it's like, well, they are kind of stuck. And then thought it was really smart how they're like, Andy's like, I just have to wait 3 months, and then I'll be 18, and then I'm going to apply for guardianship. Mm-hmm. So I thought that at least it gave them a reason to be like, even like at the beginning when it hasn't completely gone off the rails, it's like, okay, this lady's weird, but we just have to do this for 3 months.
Yeah, and I should have added that. Not only is he like, I just got to wait 3 months so I can be 18, I can apply for guardianship, but as Laura lays it out, he'll need her recommendation to say that he's safe and capable, so he can't tick her off.
Yeah, so it does, at least they put some effort into trying to explain why these kids are willing to put up with all this weirdness.
Yeah. I don't want to miss anything, so if I miss anything, you just let me know. But that's not the end of the weirdness from Ollie.
Oh, no.
Because later we get this, and maybe it's just, I'm only going to go to these Ollie scenes because they're definitely the ones that are going to stand out in anybody's mind.
I mean, that Ollie is kind of the conduit for all the horror in this movie.
Yeah. So I guess I'll say we do get some glimpses into what Laura's doing by the fact that she's learning from these old grainy VHS tapes that we see her watching like bits of.
Okay, can we park here for just a second? Because Molly and I had this discussion. Like, do you want to tell them what we were talking about? Like, so we were saying, like, what a choice it is. They don't explain anything in this movie about this cult and this ritual, right? Like, you just don't learn anything about it. You don't know how she knows about it. You don't know who these people are, anything. It's just her watching these, like, basically like snuff movies.
Well, yeah, the only bits you get to find out about are what she's watching as she goes, so you don't know anything about what she's already done. So like I said, the circles that she made, it never explains those.
She's in the process when we meet her in this movie.
Yes, Ollie is clearly already like half
possessed
or something.
Yeah.
When he gets in, it never explains how he got to that point.
Right.
So you're right. Like it picks up where our protagonist would pick up.
We know what they know.
And then we get, some insight with seeing what she watches from that point on.
Right.
But that's it.
So her and I were talking on the way home of just saying, like, does it work for movies, specifically horror movies, to not tell you everything? Like,
for me, like, the movie was still very much enjoyable. Like, I did like the movie. However, I'm the kind of person, I want everything spelled out for me. So, like, and I love cult horror. And so I wanted to know more about this cult or these people that perform these rituals. I wanted to know how she got these tapes. Like, for me, I wanted it to dive more into that aspect. And I thought at the end, Laura was going to, like, go on some crazy, Laura, go on some crazy tangent about how she got these tapes, how she knows how to bring her daughter back. That's the only part I felt like I wanted to see in the movie because, like I said, I love cult horror movies, and it was really creepy, and so I wanted. So
you wanted more. You wanted more information.
Yes, I did, and I still do.
Yeah,
I think typically I'm like you. I want all the information. I do think in a movie like this where the information can't be good, you know what I mean? Like it because it is ridiculous and it is, science fiction, I guess, if you want to say, whatever you want to call it. You can't have an explanation that I think would be satisfactory, and so the unknown is better.
It's scarier
than explaining
and
it
so
out.
You don't agree?
I hate it. I just feel like it would have been so cool if they played into that aspect of this really weird cult. Like, and she had, like, I was thinking, she lives out in the middle of nowhere, so it seems, so maybe there's some creepy cult hiding out in the woods. Like,
yeah, I could have used maybe a little more of Laura's, not motivation. We get her motivation. She lost her daughter and she was torn apart by it and wants her daughter back. But maybe like a little more backstory that makes it seem like she's somebody who's capable of that level of snapping. Like if it's just, she worked, all we get for backstory is that she worked for that foster group for decades and was one of their best, is all they say. But, maybe give us some hint in there that, like, she was maybe a little crazy all along. And so when she loses her daughter,
pushed her over the edge.
Then I understand, like, we're dealing with a real lunatic,
See, I guess, again, from someone who's been watching horror movies my whole life, I have such an admiration for these directors and for their restraint of, like, we're going to make basically a cult ritual movie, and we're not showing you any of that. And it's always effective when someone's watching some kind of grainy VHS tape.
Yeah.
Like, that just works. It does.
It is scary.
Even if it does leave you wanting more. But I always figure, like, in a movie, especially horror movies, I'd rather be left wanting more than going like, oh my gosh, they just kept giving us backstory and backstory and backstory to the point where nothing was scary anymore. Yeah. Because now I know everything about this.
And that was my complaint about Hard Eyes, since we've sung Hard Eyes praises so much. My complaint about Hard Eyes was at the end where they reveal the killers and the killers go through this whole dialogue, about their motives and everything. I was like, it was way more fun when I didn't know who the killer was. And It was just some anonymous psycho.
Yep.
I'll just leave this part of the discussion by quoting Scream. Did they ever figure out why Michael Myers liked to kill people or why Hannibal Lecter liked to eat people? No, because it's always scarier when you don't know a motive.
That's the side I take.
There you go.
But you are entitled to your opinion.
Yes, I agree. I disagree.
You want the information.
Yes.
Fair enough?
Can we mention something? After Ollie leaves the circle and Laura takes him inside to his bedroom or her bedroom, she feeds him a piece of hair.
Yeah, that one it also never explains.
Andy's dad's hair she cuts off at the funeral and feeds to Ollie. So
we never get any explanation for that.
At this point in the movie, this is what I thought. We see clips of her daughter throughout the movie.
Oh yeah,
but you never see her face. You always see the back of her head, the side of her face. She's never fully turned around until the end of the movie. So at this point, I'm thinking that Ollie is actually her daughter. Ollie has long eyelashes. I thought it was a girl with a buzzed head. And
I honestly did at first too.
So then I'm thinking she did something wrong in the ritual and she hasn't completed all the steps to fully bring back the spirit of her daughter. So I'm thinking maybe she has to feed them parts of different people to make her daughter whole again. So I'm
feed
thinking
somebody's hair and she'll grow hair.
Yes,
like
I'm thinking
like a Frankenstein.
At some point in the next like few minutes and the next sequence of events, they're gonna play an old clip of Laura's daughter, and it's gonna fully turn around, and it's just gonna be Ollie with long hair. So when she's feeding him this hair, that's what I'm thinking.
I think that's a bad thought process.
No, I don't-
So then you have to ask the question, though: is that what the film? Do people sometimes make films so that people will do what we're doing right now and sit and share theories and stuff?
Could be. Let's talk a little bit about, I won't just call it Laura's plan, but the cult ritual here.
Yeah.
Okay, so to bring someone back.
It's a complex ritual.
Yeah.
I did not understand
You've got
this.
the dead person's body. You have to have
Yes, you have
that
to keep
body,
it.
which so she turns out she's keeping it in this deep freezer in this shed. You have to have the living body that you're going to transfer it to.
Which is Ollie.
Well,
Piper.
Piper.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then you have to have this conduit. You have to have a person that is somehow like ritualistically possessed and starved until the point that they're ready to like eat the old body and then throw it up into the new body, and that
Yes.
transfers the consciousness. When you say it like that, this is a wackadoo plot.
It's a very
It is
complex ritual.
completely insane. I don't know how the filmmakers came up with that. Like, I'm not saying like it's uninteresting and it makes it for a good visual watch, but when you think about it, you're like, why the heck does one person need to eat the dead person and throw it up into the other person? How would that possibly be the best transfer method for the... It doesn't make any sense. But again, this is why they can't explain it out more, because if you
Yeah,
explain
'cause
it out
it's-
more and you get the audience thinking about
You're never going to come to a
what a
satisfactory...
chaotically insane idea this is. Also, this is where I would like more backstory, but I think it would ruin it. How did the cult come up with this? How did they figure it out? How did any of this
Right?
begin? She's following these videotapes. How did they know? Did someone just luck into this? Did they just guess?
It was
one
take
time?
like 300. They're like, everything else we've tried did not
just
work.
one weirdo started to eat a dead body, got sick, threw up accidentally in somebody else's mouth, and all of a sudden that person's
They're like,
consciousness was in
hey,
there.
it worked.
Hey,
But you know what? Like, if you're going to... Again, this is why I like this movie. Because you're just taking an old horror movie trope and you're putting your own weird idea. Because, I mean, it's like... Just because we're used to some of these like ritual movies where it's like you have to prick yourself with a knife, and it's like that's weird too. But someone just came up with it years ago, and a lot of people have just repeated it. So that's why I like this directing team so much. Is like they are coming up with, even if they're weird, they are coming up with their own unique ideas.
yeah,
And I'm here for it.
that's fair. So the next kind of big scene that I think we got to talk about is it's two scenes going on at once. So Andy finally takes off and he goes to the lady who is their, I don't know what you would call it, but the lady who put her in put them in
social
sponsor home.
worker,
The social
basically,
worker,
yeah.
yes, to tell her like crazy things are going on.
Also, great writing choice because you're like, dude, go tell somebody, and he does.
Yeah.
So that was satisfying to me.
While that's happening, Ollie's just losing it in the house and destroying everything, and Laura's freaking out. She's like, "Not yet, it's too soon." And then you have of course, the scene of like he actually convinces the social worker lady to like come check out the house, but of course she's dubious, so she's just gonna go just the two of them by herself, not like call the cops.
I mean that stuff is very horror movie trope.
But then it turns around a little bit.
It does, but like you as a viewer, you just want to like do it, just bring the cops, like just put an end to all this.
I will just say real quick before that too, we also get, which this is always works. This is another cliche, but this directing team puts a good spin on it. Where at one point before it really goes off the rails, before Ollie starts chewing the knife, he's like, "You want to write something to me?" And he does. He writes "bird," and then we see the reveal, which I thought that was really well done.
I'll be honest, I didn't even remember that and put that together until you just said it.
Yeah,
Yeah, good job.
yeah. So we like that.
Yeah, that to me made sense.
Yeah.
I remember reading Bird and just going like Bird, and then I forgot about it totally. And then when it has this reveal later, I
thought that was
did
well
not
done.
recall it.
Yeah.
So while Andy is at the office, he sees the missing poster for Ollie.
Yeah.
Connor
his
Bird.
name's Connor Bird.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
long
I thought that was
hair,
well
yeah.
done.
Okay, I should probably back up. We also get the moments of like Laura going and punching Piper in her sleep and setting it up to look
I
like
thought
Andy.
that was frustrating because poor Andy is just getting gaslighted like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But it's well done. And that was so shocking to me because Laura comes and stands over Piper and just kind of stands there.
Yeah.
And you're like,
And to that point, had only been sweet to Piper.
right. And all of a sudden, she just decks Piper right. And also good writing, too, because so we have all this backstory. Andy has a lot of trauma when it comes to showers.
Yeah. And had hit her before.
And
we don't even know if Piper had known that.
Right.
Also, do you think it was meant to be implied that that's why Piper had vision problems?
I think it could be.
Oh,
And
I
maybe
thought
like
about that.
Andy was very protective because when they were
He's
really
like, I
little,
did this
he
to
hit
her.
the little girl, and maybe that's why.
See, this movie's got a lot of
I
layers
didn't think
to
of
it.
it like that.
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
And so Andy has a lot of trauma when it comes to showering. So there's again good writing. He sprays himself with body spray so he doesn't stink.
Yeah.
Laura,
Yeah.
Yeah.
sprays herself with his body spray before she punches Piper. So Piper's like,
It's
I
dangerous.
did smell
Doesn't
you.
see, but yeah.
Yeah.
smells them.
So it might be frustrating because you're like, Laura is the worst, but it's good, smart writing.
Yeah. So you get the moment of he's freaking out at Laura. He does lose his temper because who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But that's put you in that no-win situation. You're not allowed to lose your temper, but of course you're going to lose your temper to the point where Piper's like, just please back off,
stop,
go away.
yeah.
So like that's when he does take off. But you're like, this poor kid, he's just everything's falling apart in his life. Now even his sister, the one thing he had, is gone. So yeah, so then we get the scenes of that stressful as a watcher scene because Laura's going to pull it off, but Laura finds out that they're on their way to come
She's
visit,
frantically
and the house is a mess and blood's everywhere. And we didn't talk about Ollie chomping on the wooden counter, which was almost as unpleasant as the knife scene, as the wood is just like splintering in his mouth, and you're just like everything he does just feels like this poor kid just torturing himself and doesn't know what he's doing. Very unpleasant.
So unpleasant.
I think it's even worse when he bites a chunk out of his arm and then rips the skin off like a hangnail.
Yeah, I see.
He's biting his arm, and his skin is just like peeling
Back. It's disgusting.
It's gross.
That is disgusting. And I just like to once again point out that you two were the weirdos who liked this.
I did like it.
Yeah, so I sit there again. If being unsettled is your thing.
I mean, I get
this
what
is the
you're
movie
saying.
for
I
you.
really do.
I just watched it and went like, I would please like to not see this anymore. Gross.
Yeah.
But gosh, so we get, of course, the lady arrives, and for the most part, Laura's pulled it off. She's got everything cleaned up and shoved aside, and it looks like she's gonna get away with it. Andy, in the meantime, knows that like he's got to like help, pushes along. Another thing, smart character, good. He didn't just sit in the car
I'll
and
just
wait
sit here
for it
like
to
an
go
idiot.
wrong.
He's like, no, I'm going in this shed that's
Yeah.
been locked the whole time.
He's like, he doesn't even know what's in there. He just knows.
He knows.
He knows that like she's been keeping this locked and keeping this away from us. So whatever's in there, I bet she doesn't want me to find it.
Yep.
And that's when we find that the daughter is in the
And
freezer.
when he walks in, Ollie's
Ollie's
eating her face, right? Yeah.
yeah. I
So-
think you're. Oh gosh.
We sound crazy at this point.
This movie's a lot to explain.
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremy's like, I'm right and they're wrong.
Then
They're weird.
you get the great moment of where it flips because Ollie had bitten Laura, and so she had a chunk out of her arm, and she's wearing this bathrobe and trying to cover it up, but then the blood starts dripping out, and the lady sees it. It's like, Laura, you're
So
bleeding.
you do get some satisfaction for a
Yes,
minute.
You think
And
the
Laura's
end is near.
Not exactly a criminal genius. She didn't like think quick on her feet. She knows.
She
So
freaks
She
out.
just freaks out and starts saying, "I need you to relax. Just don't say anything. Just."
And that's where Sally Hawkins is so good.
Yeah.
She's so good at that.
And Andy comes running and goes, "You got to come look at this right now. You got to come see out here." And him and the lady go and leave Sally Hawkins like sitting there
Freaking out
freaking out.
yeah.
And it leaves her. We go with them and look. They look in the little shed, and great job of like they don't have to show it again. You
Nope.
can just see the lady.
We know what she sees,
looks
yeah.
in and freaks out, and then they're rushing off to their car. And then
You
we
jumped at this part.
Yeah, it was very unexpected.
we get another ninja vehicle flying in out of nowhere, nails the lady and crushes her between her
Yeah.
car and knocks off Andy. And honestly, at first it's like, did it hit Andy or did he get out of the way? And then you see like it did hit him. And then this is maybe the biggest like shock of the movie,
This is a rough scene.
because then Laura goes over and Andy's kind of incapacitated next to this puddle, and she just rolls him over
Oh my
face
gosh.
first in the puddle
And that camera
And-
is right there.
and holds his head down. It's just like his head, her hands, his hand comes up for a moment just to like,
Oh, I wanted him to get away so badly.
I thought he would.
well, yeah, because he has been, I've talked about our protagonist. He has been our main protagonist the whole movie. He is the character we are following. We are seeing these
Yeah.
events through. all through this movie, and we're at the like 90% of the movie mark, and she successfully does it. She drowns him in this little puddle, and he's just dead.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm like, okay, I assumed at this point we're watching a movie where the villain wins.
Me too.
This is, it's not a new thing, but this isn't even a good movie to compare it to as far as tone. But I was like, we're watching Secret Window, where in the end
the bad guy wins.
Yeah. Like that's what we're watching here. Is she's gonna pull it off, and that's gonna leave us as an audience unsettled because now she's gonna have this new daughter that has possessed this other baby, and she gets away with it.
Truthfully, I thought Andy was faking. Like, I thought he would like stop moving,
do the heroic comeback,
and then eventually he would come back and like aid Piper in getting away.
I did think maybe you'd have the like surprise.
I was really hoping, honestly.
Yeah, same.
I thought the actor did such a good job.
Yeah,
and that was such a well written character. I was rooting for him.
Well, and I thought he was just gonna eventually push his way out as he woke up more. And you're sitting there going like, well, of course, it's made a big deal of the fact that like this kid, to relieve stress, lifts weights. Like he goes in there, pumps iron, and here he is. He's gonna apply it, and he's gonna push his way out.
Nope.
No, he's just
dead.
He's dead, and literally like hardly acknowledged again.
Yeah.
Throughout the rest of the last little 10 minutes of the movie.
Right.
One thing I was confused. Are we ready to jump to the next scene?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so after that, Piper gets home from playing her.
Well, Laura goes and picks
Laura
her up.
picks her up, and she comes back, and she hears the voice of Andy. Did you recognize that Andy was calling to her?
I think that's Ollie. Or it is Ollie.
It is Ollie, but
it's like that's part of it. I guess I think you're supposed to assume as an audience, like that's part of like whatever kind of spell or whatever he's under.
He had never done that though in the rest of the movie. So then I'm like, why does Ollie have Andy's voice? So then she is reaching out. She thinks it's Andy, and she feels his head. And then as they're walking out of the room, she asks Laura, "What color hair did you say he has?" And she said red curly hair, like at the beginning of the movie. Then she realizes, like, this lady's lying.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta get out. So
Yeah, and then once again, the visual impairment plays up the dread because then she starts trying to get away, but you're also like, oh, she can't, she can't navigate running off.
But I also thought they did a really
else.
good job of not making her just like so helpless and pitiful.
No,
yeah,
you're right.
She did a good
She put up a little bit of a fight.
one detail also,
So she runs into something and knocks herself out.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I don't know if you guys caught this, but I think when Andy's talking to like the social worker before she gets crushed by a car, she says something about Laura's nephew having red curly hair.
Yeah, that she actually has a nephew named Oliver.
So then
that has
what's
red
like,
curly hair.
what happened to the like?
My assumption is just that she's kidnapped this kid and has him living with him, and in order to avoid suspicion, she just describes him as the nephew. So if anybody else brings up, oh, there's this kid there,
Yeah. Oh, it's my
Okay.
nephew.
Go, oh,
Okay,
it's
that
her
makes sense.
nephew
That
that
makes
does
So
exist.
to me, what that is again is smart writing.
Yeah.
It's good writing, good attention to detail from the writers.
Okay, that I understand.
So we end up the climactic point of the movie. I should add that's been like raining, torrential downpour
Yes.
for a while, and so the swimming pool's been filling up a certain
Which they
amount.
also established that earlier in the movie because Laura's checking the weather on her phone.
Yeah.
And it says heavy rain, heavy rain.
Yeah. And so she gets Piper's incapacitated body after Piper wrecks herself and drags her to the pool where she says she's got to drown her. And she apparently got to kill her in the same way the daughter died because the daughter died swimming in the pool. And before the consciousness can be transferred. So there you've got her with Piper in the pool in the rain. You've got Ollie lurking around the pool, and his belly is expanded because apparently when you like eat in the other person's soul, like it manifests up in the belly, and he's bloody and disfigured and lurking.
His eyes have got that
eyes are all red. Yeah,
It's wild.
it is.
But you're right. At this point, I'm thinking she's going to do this, and this
Yeah.
movie's just going to end.
because she starts drowning her. I mean, it's much like the scene with Andy where you're showing her drowning and she's fighting it and she's just holding her, and you're like,
She's going to
Alright.
pull this off.
and this is honestly the. I don't know. I shouldn't say biggest complaint of the movie for me. Biggest complaint is just how weird and uncomfortable it is. But
Fair enough.
Piper gets away by coming up for air for a second and calling her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it did establish, like earlier, she wanted her to call her mom.
You can call me mom if you want.
But to me, it still just wasn't consistent with how psychotic and driven to this one goal Laura was the whole time. That she's right there on the half-yard line and fumbles right at the end.
Do you know how I read it though? Like you said earlier, where it's like she's just kind of figuring this out as she goes along. They never establish like she is like some kind of leader or something in this cult. They make it more like she's almost like someone that kind of stumbled upon this.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to try it because I'm so desperate and so grief-stricken. So to me, it worked. Because it's like she's really not ever fully committed to it. She's just desperate.
Yeah.
And then she has that moment of weakness.
I guess. But I'm just like, if she's already killed her friend, the social worker.
She's already pretty far
murdered
in. You're
Andy.
right.
She's got Ollie just mutilated here. A couple more seconds under the water and your plan's complete. And that's when she loses her nerve. And then that's when, like, basically we've got resolution. Because once she lets Piper go, Piper gets out of the pool and gets away from Ollie. Ollie kind of trudges after for a bit, but then just, like, has to throw up the spirit and throws it up. Piper runs through the woods, finds a car. Police show up. I mean, it all happens kind of fast.
It does.
And we're just left with the
You know what, though?
shot
That's the brightest spot we get in this movie.
It is. It just, to me, I was like, this is way too much of a simple, happy ending for a
such
movie that wasn't steering that way the entire time. I don't know. Like, it's not a happy ending, obviously, because Andy's definitely dead. He's been our protagonist the whole movie. We didn't really acknowledge that or care about that. I guess Piper got to listen to the message somehow, even though Laura deleted it off her phone.
Yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't matter. But it was just a weird choice. And then the police find Ollie, and at this point, I guess the spirit's been leaving him
Because he crosses the circle.
He crosses, and they ask him who he is, and he's able to speak and say, "I'm Connor Bird."
Yeah.
And I guess we're to assume, like, he's going to be okay, even though that dude's going to spend a lot of time in both a physical hospital and
I would recommend he
mental
finds a
hospital.
good dentist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest that for old Mr. Bird.
What I would like to see, what I think the post-credit scene should have been is little Connor Bird's parents coming to see him the first time, being so excited, running. I'm just being like, oh god,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What did you think was going to happen? Do you think Piper was going to get drowned? Or were you even thinking?
I'm so dumb. I was so slow to understand this movie.
In your defense, there's a lot going on.
I thought she had the spirit transfer at work. I still at this point did not realize Ollie had to throw up the spirit in her because they don't really like.
But I think that's fair because they don't explain that.
So then she says, "Mom," I'm like, "Oh well, her daughter's back," and then I realized, like, no, she had escaped. So.
I don't think you should be too hard on yourself for taking a little bit of time. There's so much going on. In this movie.
You had to piece that together from the grainy dark video footage of somebody doing that to go, oh, that's
I will say the filmmakers really, really are trusting the audience to piece stuff together in this movie.
I had to read
They
articles.
are not spelling anything out for you.
To piece it together or to not care about piecing it together and just being,
you have to do one of the
along for the
two.
ride.
Yeah. You either have to just accept that this is what it is, or you have to do a lot of kind of internal thinking yourself.
Yeah. All right.
I just want to say too, fantastic closing shot in my opinion.
The pan out
of
shot
her
of the pool, and
just-
she's holding her daughter.
I thought that was phenomenal ending shot.
Yeah.
Were we? Again, it was kind of an interesting shot because it almost made it seem like she was dead in the pool with her daughter.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was. I don't know why
think
she
so.
would be but it just sort of pans out. She's kind of lifeless and eyes closed, holding her daughter like that too. I don't know. Again, I think more concerned with the effect of how you feel looking at it than
I don't think
the
I don't
logic
think they're
of
that
how
interested in.
that does bring up my one of the recurring bits I have in here, Molly, is my best bit of trivia from IMDb. And my favorite bit of trivia from IMDb for this movie is that Sally Hawkins does her own stunts in this movie.
Okay.
And my thought was, awesome. What stunts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
Like,
did
do
Sally
they
Hawkins
actually? Because
do?
at one point Piper throws like a trophy or something at her and bonks her in the head with it. Was she just like, just nail me with this thing? Yeah. I don't know.
Good for her.
Yeah. I guess there's a little like she gets slammed around a little bit by Ollie, doesn't she? When he's kind of freaking out on her,
I think
like thrown up against the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Andy kind of pins her up against the wall, and then he punches a hole through the wall.
But
Yeah, I mean, it's
The more
not.
you know.
I don't know.
It's not Tom Cruise level of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We admire your commitment for doing all your own stunts and bring her back. Yeah. I guess one more thing that we should, or two more things I want to bring up that are prevalent in the movie that we haven't talked about is one is there's a lot of like circle stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
So apparently it's like the way to like kind of re-induce Ollie into the trance. Both. So like, I guess we failed to mention this when we had the knife incident and taken outside the line. One of the ways he calms him, soothes him back in trance. She does a circle on the head, but then he also does it later when he's outside and she's doing it on the glass and rubbing a circle to try to like put him back into the trance. Again, not really explained, I don't think. I mean, there's obviously circles are important. It's a circle around the house. Like circles are just play a big part of this, and it's just, you know, interesting, something we should mention.
You brought it up on our way home. You're like, what was up with I
mean, it's pivotal. It's the poster is a finger down on the forehead. Like, obviously the poster doesn't show a circular motion, but that's what's going on in that moment. The other thing is the thing with the sibling bond where they say grapefruit.
Yeah.
You know, like that was a consistent thing throughout the movie. It's kind of their like code word for like, this is too important to not be like honest and straightforward about.
I told Molly, I go, it's their version of a pinky promise. Yeah. That's kind of how I read it.
Yeah. And all right, so here's one little bit of confession. The AMC did it to me again with a lack of trailers where I got in thinking I had gotten in just right after the movie had started.
Yeah.
Like the start time, I was like, usually there's 25 minutes of trailers. I was in like 10 minutes after it was supposed to start, and the movie's already going. I was like, dadgummit. This has happened to me twice recently, where after, I swear, 70 straight movies of 30 minutes of preview time.
Right.
So when I walked in, they were in the meeting with the social worker that was assigning them to go live with Laura.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much I missed them.
Oh, so at the beginning of the movie, it starts with clips, the VHS tapes.
Okay.
Very quick flashes, though.
Like,
you're not really getting a lot.
You see people in this dark space.
You kind of see someone hanging, don't you?
Yeah, they're like pulling somebody up to hang them, crying, screaming, just very like,
disturbing
gross.
beginning. Yeah.
And then I think
it's Piper at the bus stop.
Yes, Piper's at the bus stop. She's trying to interact with these three girls her age, and they're just
making fun of her,
throwing like whatever. So then Andy comes up. And
she's like, I don't think they liked me. And Andy looks back and they're making fun of her eyes. And he's like, no, they liked you.
They liked you.
So it's establishing how protective Andy is.
And then throughout the movie, Piper also makes it known like she doesn't want people to take it easy on her just because she's blind. So she says, you don't have to lie. Like basically, like you don't have to lie. You don't have to make things like seem nicer than they are.
What does she say? Like, yeah, you don't have to make everything like rainbows, basically.
Yeah.
And then, so did you see the part where they find the dad dead?
I mean, like they show it like in flashes throughout.
So
the movie.
it actually happened.
Yeah, so I did not see.
They go home.
The dad is dead.
They're trying to get into the bathroom, and Andy gets a knife to unlock that door, which comes up later. He does that to get Ollie out of his room.
Okay.
So they did establish that earlier. They find Dad very naked. Camera does not shy away. Dead on the floor, and then we jump to where.
Okay.
So I mean, you missed some stuff, but I mean,
the only thing that made me feel okay about that is there was a couple people that came in even 10 minutes after I did. So I was like, people having the same problem. Here's what kills me is I actually saw at the AMC a listing for a Mission Impossible Showtime that said with no trailers. I thought, oh, that's really cool. I wish I saw that more often.
Right,
Showtime
me too.
with no trailers.
I would love no trailers.
I would just wish that they would have to say, here's the movie start time, but there's this amount of trailers so people could plan accordingly. Because now I really have started trying to be there more just exactly on time because of this, but it does drive me nuts.
It's frustrating.
And then there is the 30 minutes of trailers. I would just wish I could plan accordingly.
It's frustrating. I agree.
But yeah, so that was I felt bad that I missed something. I wondered, like, I don't know if I missed anything important. The main thing I wondered if I missed, I kind of figured I picked up on everything that I needed to know after that, but the grapefruit thing, they just started saying it. I was like, I wondered if I missed a moment at the very beginning.
They never explained it, but they're saying it to each other.
You know, and so I actually like that better.
That goes back to the directors just trusting us as an audience to be able to figure out what that means. Because they're never like, you know how we always say that when like they don't explain it.
The one other thing I just thought of in the middle of our conversation, they mention a character named Junkman. Who is Junkman?
You're really bothered by that, aren't you?
I really want to know who Junkman
What was the
did
context
they
of them
mention
mentioning
that?
it?
Yeah.
I forget.
I don't remember. I remember somebody walking out in the woods and they say Junkman at least twice. At least twice they say something about Junkman. I'm going to go back and rewatch it, like hopefully this week.
I do think it's a movie that you would probably disagree, but like
You let me know how the second watch is.
I will.
I think I'll say this. May not be a fun rewatch, but I do think it would be an important rewatch because you might notice little things.
I need to know who Junkman is. It's really bothering me.
Listen, you're gonna have to do what all people your age do: go to TikTok and
Yeah,
investigate.
I'm just going to Google it probably,
Yeah.
but also rewatch it.
Yeah,
You guys would probably be happy to know that the critics seem to be siding more with you than me. It's gotten 89% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 79% from the audiences. So I think
for how I don't think that's bad for the material.
no, I'm not that surprised that a number of people probably walked out feeling how I did. Maybe not even the same because, like I said, I do respect this movie. I appreciate a lot about the craftsmanship and
It's a
the
feel
talent
bad
that went
movie,
in it.
though.
But yeah, it's not one that I enjoyed watching because of the uncomfortableness, and I don't want to watch again because of the uncomfortableness. I did want to note this, just looking at Rotten Tomatoes, and we talked about how like I think critic scores just in general seem to be getting higher because they're more accepting of more types of movies and such. The movie Hurry Up Tomorrow, which is like is it The Weeknd? It's his movie that kind of a 14% from critics. I was like, I have not seen a score that low.
In a long,
I heard it was
long
really
time.
bad.
I heard it was just an incoherent mess, and that The Weeknd was
terrible at acting.
Like I saw a bunch of stuff that was like poor Jenna Ortega having to sit there and pretend like this guy can act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it was good.
That doesn't sound like it. That's a really bad score.
That's true. That's I mean, like so bad. I mean,
So bad. I mean, I guarantee you, Clown and Cornfield actually had a decent score, didn't it?
right. Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna some comparative scores. Karate Kid Legends is a 59%. I can't imagine that's a good movie.
Yeah.
You know, and then Minecraft was 48%.
Yeah. So
You know,
this,
like,
I mean, yeah.
when we're talking about like, it's bad. That's horrible. It had about, from what I could tell, a $4.5 million budget. Andy, do you know how this is done?
It made $8 million this weekend.
So already it's
So these guys,
fine.
they have a lot of, I guess, like goodwill from Talk to Me. People like Talk to Me.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about Talk to Me.
Yeah, you go ahead. You don't like it as much as I do.
It wasn't very memorable to me. I know like one of my brothers is like, "Oh, Talk to Me was so scary." I don't remember being that scared watching it. The strongest emotion I felt watching Talk to Me was, spoiler, at the very beginning when they hit the kangaroo. I was really sad that they hit the kangaroo. But besides that, I mean, it was okay. It was interesting, but
I think
nothing like this.
But you like this a lot better.
Much better.
I think the appeal of Talk to Me was like it had the gimmick of like this is a first time directing duo. It was I don't want to say prestige horror necessarily, but it wasn't your Clown on Cornfield Until Dark or Till Dawn or whatever.
Much better.
Like it was
than
it was
those.
way above that. So I think people liked that, and it had the embalmed hand or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's just a movie that generated conversation.
Yeah.
And it did really well. I think it had like a similar budget, and it made like $95 million worldwide.
Oh wow.
So I mean, it's just a movie that like I don't think anybody was like the new greatest horror movie. It was just well received, and it did
was
well.
unique.
It was unique, yeah. So I mean, like I bet we would both agree these brothers. Like I will watch their movies from now
If
on.
they ever make another movie, I'm definitely gonna be seeing
There
it.
you go.
They're very interesting.
I mean, yeah, their movies are weird. They're dark. Talk to Me is not as doom and gloom as this, but it
No.
is doom and gloom. So it's like
So they're getting darker. I can't wait for the
they're
next one.
they're actually
Right?
getting darker. So, you know, if you're a horror guy, I mean, these guys are committed to horror, and they have they're seeing it through just a unique lens, in my opinion. They're taking Talk to Me is the same thing. It's not like groundbreaking original, but it's original in just the way they put a spin on stuff we've kind of seen before. So I'm all in on these guys. I'm already super curious to see. Hope we get some kind of announcement soon as to what their next project is.
They have my money.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, Andy, before we go, we got to ask, would you put Uncle Chip in this movie?
I think this is too much of a bummer for Uncle Chip.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he can sit this one out. It's okay.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe the only funny thing would be like if they did end up taking Ollie to the doctor when he had the knife in his mouth and Uncle Chip was like the receptionist or something. He just looked up. He's like, oh my gosh. And just like ran off or something like that.
I mean, I guess they could have had him just at the funeral for the dad, just like in the monkey. He could have just been sitting at the funeral and then maybe just gone up to comfort them and said, hey, I'm your Uncle Chip. And
that would have been fine.
I take you in, but we'd probably be really bad at it.
Really bad at it, yeah. You don't know the greatness of Uncle Chip.
You still haven't seen the monkey?
I know you guys have talked about him before.
I think I made you watch some YouTube clips of Uncle Chip.
Probably.
Here's the thing, like it's hard to have a more obscure character that we've talked about on almost every episode this year since we saw it. So, if people who watch our episodes, if they haven't seen the monkey, are probably like, who is this Uncle Chip that they're always talking about? And they're probably gonna be shocked when they watch the monkey to realize he's a character who's in like a minute of a movie.
I was gonna say 2 minutes at the most. Yeah, he made an impression though.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. Well, is there anything else? Any other thoughts you guys want to share before?
I feel like we really took a journey through this movie.
I think we did too. Is there any other horror movies coming up soon that you're looking forward to?
Oh yeah.
Yes. I don't know if this would be a horror movie, but Dangerous Animals I want to see.
I think it's probably considered that.
Yeah.
I'd go watch it. What other trailers did we
Megan.
see? Megan 2.0.
But that does not look like a horror
that
movie.
is basically a comedy.
They're like purposefully jumping the shark with that one.
Oh yeah.
But I will be watching it.
I'll watch it. Let's be real.
Yeah,
what
I'll
else
see
did
it
we
too.
see trailers for? I know there's another one.
I know.
Watch.
If you wouldn't have put us on the spot like that. Well, at some point this year, Oz Perkins has another movie coming out.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be watching. I remember the last time I was on the podcast after we talked about long legs, I said in 2025 I want to see something even weirder than long legs. I feel like Bring Her Back did that for me.
You are the cause of this. You did wish for that.
You did in fact see something weirder than long legs.
I would want to see.
Is this
something,
weirder than long legs?
I think so.
I think they're weird in their own ways.
So Ryan, my other or one of my other kids and Molly's brother, he saw Bring Her Back last night, and he's not a horror movie guy. He didn't get home till late, so I didn't see him. Blah blah blah. I woke up this morning and I was instantly like, "What'd you think?" And he was like, "It reminded me of Long Legs." That was his very first thought.
Yeah,
and he said that he literally almost like he could feel the vomit rising when Ollie was biting his own flesh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to say this one's weirder than long legs.
Dare I say I want to see something
weirder?
A little bit weirder, a little bit
Holy
scarier.
cow, dude.
Bring it on.
Molly, I'm worried about you.
I have yet
You want to see the version of this that dives fully into the ritual and the cult.
I have yet to see a horror movie that has given me nightmares or made me check behind my doors for some evil force. So when I find that movie one day,
you are a thrill seeker.
We will podcast on it.
Okay.
I can't wait. If you see that movie, Molly, do me a favor. Let me know I don't want to see it.
Okay,
Right?
I will give it the first
That'll be
watch.
the Andy and Molly Talk Movies podcast. You'll just direct.
I'll just sit back. Yeah.
Take the whole family to see this movie. Get the
A
kids.
light watch.
Yeah, get the young ones. Take them to see Bring Her Back. No, don't. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, this is it's a pretty specific demographic. I think
Very specific demographic.
But apparently, demographics enough to make it a success. So yeah, I do think we'll keep seeing these guys.
Oh, I don't think they're
pumping
going
out
anywhere.
Original content. Although we've talked about it before, when you have that first big hit, it doesn't matter if your second one doesn't work or your third one. Like it gives you a lot of leeway. I think. With the studios. When you've got one hit to your name like that, like Talk to Me was, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this movie was just marketed as from the guys that did Talk to Me. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was, looking back, it's a very creepy preview. I mean, there's plenty of images from this movie to like put in previews and be creepy. But also I see why they went with like, let's just show a bunch of creepy imagery, because it's like, how do you summarize this movie in a preview?
Yeah.
And yeah, so let's just make it look really
creepy and then make sure everyone knows it's from the Talk to Me guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Molly, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure.
And thank you, audience, for joining us for this discussion. Please let us know if you've seen this movie, what you think about it.
Are you team Jeremy or team Andy or Molly?
Yeah. So
are you weird or are you normal?
Yeah. So let us know what you think. And until then, we will see you next time.
Absolutely.